Okay, so what we're going to do today, I'll stand over here so you can see me, Kathy. We're going to focus on some general advice for the research assessments. We did a workshop on this a couple of weeks back, but some people weren't here, and the research assessments really, they can be tricky in terms of how you set them out and what you put in them, because not all, a couple of them do, but most of the research assessments aren't like your other assessments where you've got a question, answer this, next question, next question, next question. It gives you a topic and it says go for it.
Yeah.
Right, yes, exactly like that, perfect. There may be one or two research assessments throughout the diploma that are set out more like knowledge questions assessments, but the majority of them are, you know, here's your topic, go for it. So I just want to give you some tips to help you out. And we'll use some examples along the way, and I notice a couple of people do have their research, their next research project topic with them, and we might be able to throw that in there and practice a bit as well. So this is what we're going to do. Let me just see if I can write. Oh, good. Alrighty, so tips for being successful with your research project. We're going to talk about how to break down the question. That really is important. You'll see, because a lot of times you see the question and you think, I don't even know where to start. Let's talk about how you can break it down. Identify what the question wants you to answer, and we'll look at the action words, or those words that it's telling you what kind of processes you need to use. Research, describe, explain, all of these words that tell you what actions you need to take. And then the topic words you can identify from the question. And the topic words are the things that you need to write about. We'll talk about researching, we'll talk about what sources you should use for your research. I will go over this again, but my general advice would be start with your learner guide, go to your textbooks, then go online, and we'll talk about Google Scholar. We'll talk about how to set out your paper and some advice. You guys don't need to write essays. You're really only writing reports. So you'll use things like headings to make it simpler for you. That way when you're researching, if it doesn't fit under one of these headings that you've identified by breaking down the question, the chances are it's not relevant to your topic, to your project. Then we'll do a little bit about referencing. Okay? Any questions so far?
Yep.
No? Okay. Okay, let's start with breaking down the question. Sometimes it can be a bit overwhelming. You see the question and it can be overwhelming for a couple of reasons. First off, you're thinking, I'm not exactly sure what it's asking me to do, or it seems to be asking me to do a whole lot.
Yeah.
But most of the time when you get stressed out, it's like, I haven't even heard of this topic, what the heck is it? So, what we want to do, this is my advice, your first step is to break down the question, and the first step in breaking down the question is identifying the action words and the topic words. Give you an example. Let's say this is your research question. You're to research and describe one of the following therapeutic frameworks, outlining the underpinning concepts and how they are applied in counselling. 500 words. What we want to do, first off, is you can start with either or, action or topic words, but let's start with action words. I'll give you one word in here that tells you what action you need to take.
You've got therapies up there.
And that's research. Alright, what other word in there?
Describe.
Describe, okay, good, describe. Keep singing them out.
Outlining.
Outlining.
Underpinning.
Concepts.
Underpinning and concepts might be more topics. They're the things you're going to write about. But good effort though.
500 words.
Okay, yeah, and it's probably, I mean, it is always important to remember how much you've got to write. Try to stick to your word limit. 10% either way is usually okay. Sometimes 500 words isn't enough, feel free to go over. But you guys are correct. These are the action words. These are the words that tell you what you need to do, what actions you need to take. We haven't even looked at what the topic is yet, but this is the action you need to take. You need to research, you need to describe, and you need to outline. That's your first step. Your second step is to identify the topic words. In other words, what are we going to research, describe, or outline? Let me give you one.
Therapeutic frameworks.
Therapeutic alliance.
Well, we'll put in therapeutic frameworks. That's it. Obviously, this question reads like it was going to give you a list to choose from.
Can we say one? Yeah, I was just about to say one.
Yeah. Let's say it told you can choose from CBT or ACT or PCT. The topic is therapeutic. You're going to write about a therapeutic framework.
Mm-hmm.
Pick one. Ruth, anyone?
ACT.
CBT.
CBT? Alright, that's good because all the rest of the examples in my slideshow actually are CBT. So there you go. Well done. So you've identified the topic word, what you're going to write about.
CBT.
Yes, CBT. Okay. Alright, so we know we're researching, we know we're describing, we know we're outlining in relation to therapeutic frameworks, specifically CBT. But what else are we writing about CBT?
The
From this
underpinning
question?
concepts
Good, good. Underpinning concepts.
and how they are applied in counselling. So the how.
Yeah, good. How they are applied in counselling. So what you've done there is you've identified all the things you need to write about in your research project. Here's my advice. Once you've identified the topic words, I would make those things, or probably most of them, your headings in your research project. So I know I'm talking about the underpinning concepts. So I'll make that a heading. I know I'm talking about how they are applied in counselling. I'll make that a heading. Obviously, CBT or therapeutic framework is your overall topic.
Yeah.
So you're not going to necessarily give that a heading, but you'll probably describe it in general in your introduction. Yeah.
So it's okay with that, but like when my research paper that I have to do has family gestalt behaviour theory, acceptance, commitment therapy on it.
Okay.
So I think that it's basically, so does it tell you what you have to
Yeah, let's use yours as an example.
She's got those things on the back.
Good.
Yeah,
Okay.
at least 5 pages of that.
I've just found that one.
Let me write this one up,
Yeah.
and then we'll do the same thing as we just did with the example. You are required to choose one of the therapies listed below. Oh. You are required to research chosen topic and answer the following.
argument's sake, are the therapies listed in textbooks or?
They'll be listed in your questions and your research assessment, and they'll all be chosen from stuff that are in your course materials. So they're not going to come out of nowhere. Yeah, your learning guides, your study guides. All right. So the first thing we started with, now let's pretend this is the question that Robin's got. You're required to choose one of the following therapies listed below. And there's a few here: family therapy, gestalt therapy, behaviour therapy, acceptance commitment therapy. You're required to research the chosen topic and answer the following questions. All right, there's actually a set of questions that follows. So what we want to start with then, let's start with your action words. There's your question. What are the words that tell you that you need to do, what action you need to do? Choose, yeah, choose. Someone else said research.
Yeah, I did.
Listed below.
Listed.
You are required to choose one of the therapies listed below. Listed, you don't have to list anything. It's telling you that there are things listed.
Yeah.
And you're required to research the chosen topic and answer the following
Questions.
There's one more word in there that tells you there's some action you need to take.
Answer.
Answer. Okay, the rest of it is all related to the topic itself. Those are the action words, things you need to do. Now, we're going to let's pick one for you. Let's say Robin's looked at her list and she decides she's going to focus on family therapy. What in there now are your topic words? What tells you you're writing about?
Family therapy.
Family therapy. And
So you've got to research family therapy, and then each of those questions I'd have the heading.
that doesn't give you anything.
No.
You need to look at all the questions here.
That's right.
Right. Now, if this was just given like this, you'd very much be able to throw up your arms and say, well, it doesn't tell me what I'm supposed to talk about. And I know I'm supposed to talk about family therapy, but what specifically?
What God wants to
And
know.
then
Exactly.
your questions are on how you have to answer it.
Ah, good.
So for that one,
Yep.
you would look at your question,
Yes.
and then they've given you some paper places you can go actually in the module.
Yeah, good. It helps you out.
Yeah.
And then you'd relate that question back to family therapy if that's
Yeah.
your chosen one.
Yeah. The point is, if you weren't given a list of questions to answer,
right.
you find the questions in the question itself.
Yep.
All right, like we did with the previous example. In this case, it specifically outlines it for you, so no worries. Okay?
Yeah.
All right.
There you go.
Oh, I'm sorry, Rob. I thought that'd make it to you. So, just to quickly refresh, first thing you do, break down the question. Look for the action words and the topic words. And you might be lucky enough to get a research assessment that actually breaks it down for you. Any questions about that?
Keep going, I'll pick it up.
No, tell me if you've got a question.
I can't, yeah, it'll process.
Okay, all right. You sing out if you get
I
stuck.
like that you avoid Wikipedia because it's never right. It's not always right what's on Wikipedia either there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But it doesn't always give you the right
sometimes
information.
I can do this, but sometimes I can go back to it after thinking about it and then break it, yeah.
I'll
break
print it
down
out for you
my own
anyway.
Yeah,
I can
me
print
too.
it out. It'll make sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. Here's a couple of tips now. You've broken down the question. Now I know what I've got to research.
Yeah.
Like I said, start with your learning guide because they've chosen topics that are in your course materials. Start with them. They may not give you a lot of information though, especially not enough to write 500 words. So then go to the textbooks for the course because they might provide a fair bit of detail. And at least you know they're solid, reliable sources that have passed the test of validity because they've been included in the course.
So if you've got a book, like I have a book, a textbook, it's Corey.
Yeah.
And it has different case studies in it. Actually, Ruth is one of them that we have to do.
Yeah.
And Stan's in there as well.
I know, I've read that one.
And it has, so if you're a little bit stuck, that would be a good book to go. And
Sure. For sure.
Because when I was doing the old books, I actually went to the, I didn't realise I had that book, so I went to it. I've got 2 of his books, and I went through it and I went back to my paperwork, and I went, oh, it's in here.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and then in one of them Stan's in it as well.
Yeah, good. So you can use any
So that's
textbook.
what because it's a textbook.
And the thing about textbooks is, I mean,
Throughout Korea.
there are a lot of rubbish books out there, but the bottom line is if it's an academic textbook that's passed standards of publication, then it's probably written, and the person who's written has qualifications, he can't go wrong, really.
I've got those books that we've got out now.
Yeah,
I would avoid Wikipedia though. Now the reason is,
not always right.
yeah, it's not always right. It is sometimes good for a general basic read understanding, but the thing is, like, I probably mentioned this in the last workshop. According to Wikipedia, I was a guest host on the Muppet Show in 1977, right next to Steve Martin.
Oh, I remember the Muppet Show. Who
Yeah.
doesn't?
Well, you would have seen me on there then. Anyway.
You weren't even there, were you?
Well, I was born 5 years after
After
that.
that.
But it didn't get changed for months and months. And now what happened was it got copied and put on a forum on another website. And so still somewhere on the internet I'm listed as a co-host with Steve Martin somewhere. But the point is, people could modify the page you're looking at. Anybody could. And it may not be validated or checked at the time you read it. What I would do is, if you do use Wikipedia, they actually reference on the page.
And check the references.
Yeah, check the references and go to those references and see if they're any good. So if it's made a statement and it referenced some web page, click on it, go to that page and see if it's a valid source. And then you can always just reference that original source.
Yeah.
What about the Britannica Encyclopedia?
Yeah.
Internet. I've been on that. Is that
Yeah.
any good
Oh,
or?
of course, yeah, of course. Encyclopedia Britannica, all that. I mean, I remember when we used to have them at home in hard copy form.
Oh
Yeah.
God, I remember when they used to come to the door and try and sell it to you.
Yeah.
You know?
With the Britannica, I'm pretty sure that it also tells you at the bottom of it how to cite it.
Oh, good, yes, good. All right. If you are searching the internet though, here's a bit of advice. You know how you've got a website, www.somethingorother.com?
Yep.
Your sites might be more valid,
If it's got all green,
yeah, if it's got org or edu. The reason for that is, especially with edu, you know that it's an established institution that's developed a website, not just some bloke sitting behind his computer at home. If it ends in edu, it actually means that
It's education.
yeah, it's an education.
So it has to start in ORG and end in...
No, if your
No.
if your website's got a
So www.evocca.edu
Okay.
at the end, or www.gestalt.org.
That's organisation.
Yeah. In that case, it would be an organisation that's
Because I
developed
know,
resources on the topic.
And
because if you go on
.gov.
websites.com,
Yeah.
.com's commercial.
Right, they're
So you don't
commercial.
want that.
They may be useful, but I'm
Yeah.
just saying if you really want to make sure, when you do your search in Google, you can actually put .edu or .org and it will, all your hits will only be
Oh, okay.
.edu or .org.
They've got .gov as well, which is a
Yeah,
little bit-
.gov, yeah, that's another one.
That's government.
Yeah, it's government. Good.
MyGov, I think, is another one.
Yeah.
MyGov.
That's a specific Australian government website.
Yep.
Okay, so learning guides, then textbooks, then internet. Just be careful of your sources on the internet. Any questions about that?
Yeah, I think I got that one.
Got that one. Okay. You've broken down your topic. You know what you're researching. You know how you're going to research now. I'm going to do my learner guide. I'm going to do my textbooks. I'm going to go online for reliable sources. But how do you set out your paper? My advice, well, actually I might skip ahead for a minute. My advice is use headings throughout your paper. And your headings will be the main elements from your question. When you broke down the question, you decided what you need to research. Use those main things as your headings.
So with my, with the research project I'm up to,
Yep.
one of the things it asks is to, the foundation, because of the list of things. So I'm assuming that with the foundation,
Yes.
it's asking, you know, who developed the,
Right, it could include the historical
Yeah.
context of it all. Yeah.
yeah,
And so that would be a heading.
yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. Here's that question. I'm sorry, I did not put it up. Let's go back here then to the question we broke down together at the beginning. You are to research and describe one of the following frameworks outlining the underpinning concepts. Underpinning concepts. The underpinning concepts might be a heading. How they are applied in counselling. That would be a heading. What I do with my research is when I've broken down the question, I decide what my headings are going to be in advance so that as I'm researching, if I come across any information,
And you write it down.
yes, I
Yeah.
write it down and
You
put it
write
under
it
that heading.
down, then you go back to it.
Yes, good. So you put it under that heading. If it doesn't fit under that heading, any of those headings that you've already decided you're going to use, chances are it doesn't belong in your assessment.
Fair enough.
Yep. So let's talk about more about how you set out your paper. Have an introduction. A very brief one in assessments this size, maybe of only 5 sentences. But have an introduction because you need some way, you can't just go straight into the material.
You need to introduce it,
Yeah,
so you
yeah,
have to introduce your topic.
right.
So before, I went to Logan Tape, so we had to do all that, but yeah,
Yeah.
in the introduction, it doesn't have to be really big, but it needs, if you don't introduce your subject, then you've lost them at the beginning.
Exactly.
They're not going to know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. The way I'd open an introduction is I'd have an opening sentence that specifically designs the overall topic of the paper. Or sorry, defines the topic of the overall paper. We had that question and we decided we're going to do CBT. We're going to talk about the underpinning concepts and how it's related to counselling. But for your introduction, what will be the smartest thing to define first? If your question says you've decided to choose CBT and you're going to define the underpinning concepts and how they're applied
Can
in
you
counselling.
explain what CBT is?
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. Define the overall
All
topic.
topics.
That's exactly right.
The case. Define the case. What is
Yeah.
it about?
Yes, exactly. The case, the overall topic. So for the question we were looking at, you might open your introduction with something like cognitive behaviour therapy is a structured approach to therapy that aims to help clients identify maladaptive thoughts and how they impact on feelings and behaviour.
And then that's a good one.
We haven't even got to the underpinning concepts really. We haven't got to how they're applied in counselling. We kind of did. But,
But it's telling you,
Exactly what CBT is.
right. That's what you want to start your introduction with. An
And then
opening
your
sentence.
instructor knows that you actually know what CBT is.
Yes, true. You're specifically defining the overall topic in your first sentence. Then to finish your introduction, what I would do is I would write the main points that you'll be making throughout the rest of your paper. So do you know how you've got headings, like you've got your introduction, then you've got underpinning concepts, how it's applied in counselling.
Mm-hmm.
With underpinning concepts, that section there, you made some main points, put them in your introduction. With the how it's applied in therapy, you've made main points, pick them and put them in your introduction.
Mm-hmm.
Because the whole purpose of your introduction is to prepare your reader for the rest of your paper.
Because then you guys then know what we're talking about
Yeah,
when you come to read it.
that's right, that's right. And from the start, we know that you've answered or are attempting to answer the research question as well. Don't have to go hunting too much.
Because you pretty well know what it is anyway if you've read it in the book.
Yes, and chances are, for your individual sections of your paper, under your headings, you probably open up each paragraph with a clear defining sentence that makes it clear what that paragraph's going to be about. You could just reword those and put them in your introduction. Reword the main sentence from each paragraph, put it in your introduction. Does that make sense, Rhonda?
Yes.
You sure?
Yeah.
Okay. Alright, so you've got your introduction now. Use headings throughout your paper. Use the main elements from your topic question. Introduction, we decided that when we broke down the question, we're going to talk about the underpinning concepts. So that's going to be a heading. We decided that we need to talk about application to counselling. So that's going to be my next heading. And then I'm going to have a conclusion. What I've put up in here is an example. You know how in the introduction you had an opening sentence that really defined the main topic?
Yep.
Under each heading, you want an opening sentence that really defines the heading, the topic of the heading. For example, underpinning concepts. You might open that section with all of the underpinning concepts of CBD can be related to the idea that our thoughts, feelings and behaviours are interrelated. You've got an opening sentence that really defines your heading. Just like in the introduction, you had an opening sentence that really defined the overall topic. With your next heading, application to counselling, your first sentence will really define application to counselling. It might be something along the lines of CBT is used in a variety of ways in counselling, and there are multiple different methods that are used. You open it and then you describe all the details after that.
Yeah. Or you could put like a short style term of therapy that's widely used if you
Okay, good.
you're taking it out of the book then.
Good, good.
And then you use your details that you've got in your book to finish.
Yeah, to fill it all up, that's right. Does anyone else, Rhonda, you've got a research project there, can I have a quick look at it? Okay, good. This particular one asks the students to choose one of the following. Stages in intimate or sexual relationships, divorce settlements, restraining orders, injunctions, abuse, neglect, bankruptcy, etc. And the student's supposed to define the topic, define how it can affect the relationship, how it can impact upon a client's behaviour, and as a counsellor, what strategies could be implemented with the chosen topic.
When they ask for strategies, what is it they mean, like proper counselling, or what you would do personally?
As the counsellor, what strategies would you use?
Yeah.
Strategies, interventions and techniques are words that can probably be used interchangeably, at least in the first part of your diploma.
Yeah.
If we say techniques, it may be as simple as questioning. If we say strategies, maybe as simple as questioning. If we say interventions, it may be as simple as questioning. Later on in your diploma, when you start getting things like CBT, and it talks about using the ABC technique, that's still a technique, it's still a strategy, and it's still an intervention. So if you ever see strategy, intervention or technique, they're all the same thing.
Okay.
What would you do as the counsellor to help the client? Okay, so let's say for this research project, we're going to talk about abuse. One of our headings, because they're given here for us, conveniently enough, kind of like Robin's, one of our headings is how this can affect a relationship. That's going to be one of our headings. What could be a topic sentence that opens that heading, that section? Abuse and how it can affect a relationship.
I did that one, I can't remember.
You mean a question or
A statement.
a statement?
I know you guys probably haven't studied it, but let's just pretend. Let's just pick something.
Yeah.
Let's
It
do.
can either be physical abuse or verbal.
There we go. There we go. Relationships can be affected by either physical, verbal, or emotional abuse.
Yeah.
That's right.
If you open your section with that, it tells us what you're going to talk about in the rest of it. You're going to talk about physical, emotional, and sexual abuse all
Yeah,
through
we've
it.
also got mental abuse.
Mental abuse
Yeah,
as well.
mental abuse. Yeah. The point is, for each section, really have a topic sentence, because then it helps you out. Again, the heading reminds you I don't need to put that in my research project because it doesn't fit. Your topic sentence makes you think, as you're typing along, you can look back at it and think, actually, what I'm saying has nothing to do with that opening sentence. What am I doing? Get rid of it.
It also helps you to clarify where you're at.
Yeah.
Can I just say another one?
Yeah.
Another form of abuse?
Yeah.
Elder abuse?
Yeah, elder abuse.
What is it?
Elder abuse?
Yeah.
Where elderly
Yeah,
get abused?
that's right.
I did my training in that.
Okay. So I haven't lost anybody, you sure?
No.
No questions? All right. Introduction, headings, conclusion. The conclusion's fairly simple.
Sums it up.
Pick your main points from your whole paper and put them in there. If you wanted your reader to take away anything, and it was just from the conclusion, put it in there. The main points of your paper. Before we go to referencing, can I show you Google Scholar? Because we were talking about whether or not certain websites are valid,
Yeah.
like Wikipedia or whatever. There is this thing called Google Scholar.
I've heard of it. I've
You've heard of it?
Claire talk about it millions of times.
Good. What Google Scholar does is all of the hits are academic and peer-reviewed, well not necessarily, but mostly peer-reviewed and validated. They come from academic journals, they come from universities, you know, they've got credibility to them.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing about Google Scholar is, you know, with Google, when you type in a search, usually the first few hits are relevant, or you assume they might be, and the first few don't normally go to the second page unless you really have to.
I
Yeah.
always go to the second page.
I do. With Google Scholar, there's a good chance that what you want isn't at the top, it's probably buried in there somewhere. And the reason for that is the hits, the topics are very specific. For example, if I did a search for CBT on Google Scholar,
Yep.
you're going to get thousands of hits, and mostly they're going to be specific along the lines of the application of CBT in primary schools with children aged between 8 and 10 who suffer from depression as a result of bullying.
Mm-hmm.
All right, very specific, because that's what the articles are. They're very specific.
Yeah.
So you may have to do a bit of searching. However, if all you were looking for was a definition of CBT, you could go to that article, because in the abstract it's probably going to define CBT. Forget that the rest of the article is not valid. You're not interested